Did you recently go through a breakup and now you can't stop thinking about the mistakes that you made in your relationship or at the end of your relationship? You are in a sense ruminating about the past and wishing that you would have done things different. In a sense, shoulding all over yourself. You know what I mean when I say that? I should have done this, or I wish I would have done that. It can be maddening to be having these intense conversations in your mind and then not be able to do anything about it. In this video, I'm gonna talk about how to stop those ruminating thoughts. Hi, I'm Katya Morozova. I'm a personal and relationship coach for people who are ready to heal their relationship wounds, feel secure in their skin, and have healthy relationships. I'm also the founder of KatyaMorozova.me. If you're new to my channel and you want helpful information that supports you in understanding yourself, your attachment style, as well as the attachment style of your partner, or your ex-partner, then definitely subscribe to my channel. Now, I'll just say this, that I have worked with a significant amount of people who are anxious, preoccupied, and I've helped them work through some pretty intense heartbreak to recover from it and move on with their life, or really get some leverage and reattract their partner again. In fact, I do this in my 3-month one-on-one coaching program called Recover, Restore, and Reconnect. And the majority of my clients will overcome this rumination stage that is particularly intense in the first month after a breakup, and they will work through this stage and actually move through it in the course of a month, which is pretty fast. So I want to share some of the tips that I give to my clients in that program and share a little bit about the things that help them the most, that really allows them to move through this painful experience where they just can't seem to stop blaming themselves for the breakup. So let's get into those tips. The first tip I want to share with you is that it takes two to tango. So while you're hyper-focusing on the mistakes that you made, consider that you weren't the only one who made mistakes in the relationship. A lot of times anxious preoccupieds will be really hard on themselves for saying something really intensely or really standing up for themselves at the end of a relationship. And then if their partner broke up with them right after this, they always go back to this moment thinking this is the moment that broke the camel's back. Or they'll look back at some of the arguments and fights they had throughout the relationship and really regret saying some of the things or doing some of the things that they did. Here's the thing. While I understand that everyone gets triggered in relationships and says things that they don't mean and does things that they later regret, there's two things I want to point out. First, everyone makes mistakes in relationships. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship. And actually, repair matters a lot more to a relationship than trying to avoid making mistakes. Repairing a relationship is what really counts. So if you have been attempting at repair in your relationship, you are already doing a great job. The second thing I want to say is that your mistakes or the things that you said to your partner that maybe you regret probably didn't happen in a vacuum. I think it's rare that people just have these outbursts out of nowhere and get upset at their partner. More often than not, you are responding to something, a stimulus. Maybe your partner has been unavailable to you for a period of time and you've reached a breaking point. And yes, maybe you didn't go about it in the wrong way, but that doesn't mean that you got upset in a vacuum and just had an outburst. More than likely, you were responding to something that was really bugging you and upsetting you over a period of time. And while yes, it's not ideal for anger to build up until it boils over to resentment and spills over, that doesn't mean that having an outburst or saying something a couple of times in a relationship that you regret or that you wish you wouldn't have said is cause for a relationship ending. And a lot of times anxious preoccupieds will equate that they said this thing and then the breakup happened. And so if they hadn't said this thing, then the breakup would have never happened. But that is simply not how it works. Keeping silent over things that are bothering you is also not the solution. So, you could look back and wish that you wouldn't have said the thing that you said, but I think what would be better is if you looked at how you could do things differently in the future in a new relationship or with your ex. Blaming yourself for your mistakes does not help you learn from them. Understanding your triggers, understanding why you did what you did and how it might have been valid in that moment, and then learning from that experience and doing things differently next time is what's actually going to help you grow as a person and get better at communication and better at relationships. When you are ruminating or looping, you are likely avoiding feeling something that's much deeper. For instance, if you're replaying how things could have gone differently, then you're in a sense imagining and wishing that you could turn back time. You're kind of hoping that your thoughts can change your reality. This is what's called magical thinking, believing that your thoughts can change the past. Magical thinking is a part of child psychology, and whenever there is a threat to your attachment bonds, the child will lean on magical thinking to get through some really unbearable experience that the child is feeling internally. Because feeling that unbearable experience feels too closely like the end of survival. And remember, when you're a child and your attachment bonds are threatened, it does feel like you will not survive without them, because it's true. Because as a child, you can't survive without your parents. Usually that internal experience is hopelessness or powerlessness. As a child, you are in a sense helpless and at the whim of your parents. Your parents are like gods. Feeling hopeless feels unbearable for the helpless child. So instead, they do all that they can do to get their needs met. Protesting, acting out, and if they feel like their attachment relationship is really truly threatened, then they will resort to magical thinking. As an adult though, hopelessness is something that you can bear. Acknowledging that things feel really hopeless and you really wish that you could change how things went, but you know that you can't. This is something that your adult psychology and your adult mind-body system is very capable of doing. Allow yourself to notice the hopelessness and touch into it for a moment. Yes, it may be painful to touch into those feelings, and acknowledging those feelings is sometimes what really helps us break out of those thought loops. Thought loops are a result of feeling that something is unbearable or uncomfortable. And usually that is a mixture of emotions or sensations that we really don't want to fear. Some typical sensations that people try to avoid when they're going through a breakup that really sends them off into rumination is really this heaviness in their heart space, in their heart chakra or their heart space, or constriction. And because it feels so difficult and feels so familiar, they try to move away from this feeling. When we move away from our emotions and sensations, this is when we end up in ruminating thought loops. Now, one of the ways to stop ruminating over the mistakes that you made is by forgiving yourself. But how do you actually forgive yourself? Forgiving yourself in this type of situation is really more about having some compassion for yourself. You know, if you made some mistakes in the relationship, I want you to consider that you were probably still doing the best that you could at the time and with the tools that you had. So in coaching, there's this saying that people are doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. So, you know, I look back at some of my past relationships and I think about, man, I was a wreck. I definitely shouldn't have said that thing. I definitely shouldn't have done that thing. But then I start to think about, you know what, where I was in my development and the awareness, the level of awareness that I had access to at the time, I really couldn't have done things any other way. And it allows me to have some compassion for my experience. Having compassion for that version of yourself that really couldn't bear those triggers that you experienced in your relationship and just had to say or do whatever it is that you said or did is the path to forgiveness. You can't take back the past. You can't change the past, but you can do your best to do things differently in the future. And the best way to do things differently in the future is by having compassion for that previous version of yourself. When you don't have compassion for yourself, it actually builds up a layer of shame. And shame is the thing that makes us act on our triggers often. When we feel shame, we often will act very erratically. So instead of blaming yourself, instead of being hard on yourself, the best thing that you can do is to really know that you are doing the best that you can and that you promise to do better next time. Would you like support in breaking through rumination, finally processing what happened and moving on? Or getting that opportunity to reconnect if it's right? If so, my 3-month one-on-one coaching program, Recover, Restore, and Reconnect program is open for enrollment. You can apply by clicking the link in the description below. In this program, I will teach you how to recover from your breakup, restore your sense of self-worth and really feel like yourself again, and finally get the opportunity to reconnect from a place of security and power, and only if it's right. Whether you choose to reconnect or move on with your life, I promise that this program will shift you towards earn secure and really start to pave the way for having a healthy relationship in your future and truly moving on from the past. If you liked this video, definitely give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch more videos like this. Next up is my video on the dismissive avoidant. It profiles the dismissive avoidant and really gives you the scoop on what they may be thinking after a breakup. You can watch that next right up here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.